are currently 7 weapons in Terraria that are missing or removed altogether. Some of these items can still be found within the game's files, but other ones have been removed completely from the game. I will be reviewing each of these weapons, however only 2 of them actually kind of really do anything, and the other weapons exist, however, had their use removed or replaced by other items. Let's start with the boring bow. So the boring bow works like any other bow, and this is actually one of the only ones that you can find. So if you actually search for it in like the heroes mod, or if you actually search for it in the game's files, you can actually find it. It shoots like a regular bow. There's nothing really special about it, although I find it interesting that it's called the boring bow. Like I don't know how they came up with that name, and it kind of the trivia says the weapon closely resembles the Dragon's Visage, a legendary bow in Dungeon Defenders 2, which was a crossover. At first I honestly thought it was like a plant, but I can definitely see it now. It was considered, along with the Phantom Phoenix and the Aerial Blade, to represent Dungeon Defenders 2 Huntress class. So these were other weapons that, oh my god, bro, I hate this website. So those were 2 other weapons that actually were implemented into the game. However, the boring bow did not make it, and it just kind of works like a normal bow. It doesn't really have like much of like a use beyond that, but it's still interesting to look at. Terraria wiki. The Ethereum javelin is kind of like a spear, but it's kind of like the spears that you can throw. It's almost like the Daybreak in a sense, but it only exists as an ID and image in the game's files, and attempting to use third-party tools to obtain it will result in it disappearing. So it doesn't really do anything, but I think it's an interesting concept. I think it probably was supposed to be used to throw at enemies like the other spears were. That's about the shenanigans for that weapon. There's just nothing much to it. The first fractal was the alternative to the zenith, which is actually pretty interesting that it resembles the Terrorblade, but I can definitely see why they removed this. But I think it could have been still pretty cool to have it like in the game to be obtainable. It still exists in the game and you can use it. However, you can't use it through normal gameplay. And also another thing I find interesting is the first fractals, the projectiles, there's actually a bunch of different versions of the same sword. So they all kind of look like the Terrorblade, but they're all just kind of like their own different design of it. You know, I think would have been cool is what if like you could have the zenith and the first fractal, and you could combine those to create an even more strong weapon. Hey, Relogic, I just gave you an idea. You should implement that into your game, but have both of those, and you know, they could, you know, potentially create an even stronger weapon, although I get that, you know, at the end of the game. Anyways, what's cool about the projectile is it creates a projectile of your own character. So when you're actually swinging, you're not really swinging the sword, but when you use it, there's like almost holograms of yourself or copies of yourself that's kind of being thrown around or shot like a projectile across the screen. And it does 190 damage, so it was a pretty strong weapon when it actually existed. And actually, I heard in some regards that it actually some people would have rather preferred it to the zenith. I did a poll vote of it, and I can definitely see why. The next one is the skull bow. The skull bow is kind of just like the boring bow. It doesn't have any special properties to it. It fires like a regular bow. You can sell it for 2 gold, surprisingly, but it only does 8 damage, so it's not that great. It looks pretty cool, though. It looks like something that you would have got in like the dungeon or something like that. I'm not sure why they removed this one. It was just kind of like something that probably just didn't really stick with the game. One of my favorite weapons is probably the scythe, the regular scythe, not the other scythe. The scythe was an unobtainable weapon in the 1.2 update. It was entirely removed from the desktop version in the 1.2.4 update, although it still exists as an unobtainable item in the Nintendo 3DS version. Even when it could be obtained with hacks or inventory editors, the scythe was never a usable weapon, so you could never actually really use it. Obtaining it would turn it into an angel statue, and in situations where the scythe could be placed in the inventory, it would still become an angel statue upon usage. So yeah, basically it substitutes it out for whatever reason with the angel statue, and there's not really anything that you can actually really use with it. So that's kind of sad, although it is pretty badass looking. I like the red and black design, which I found interesting because if you look up soul scythe on Google, it actually comes up with a red and black scythe, and it has the same, almost the same exact design. So I'm curious if that's where they got the name of the other scythe. Speaking of which, the next one that we will be talking about is the soul scythe. This is actually the other weapon that actually works. So basically, in the trivia, it says this weapon is a reference to a special attack from the anime franchise Soul Eater, specifically Maka Albarn's variation of the Kishin Hunter, which may also been the reason for its removal. So, you know, copyright. But I thought it was a really cool design. I really like the different colors that they used for it. But when you actually use this soul scythe, it actually does shoot a projectile, and or kind of shoots a projectile, but when you actually use the soul scythe, there's like a particle effect to it, so it's still usable unlike the other ones. But it was a pretty cool weapon. Sad to see that they removed it, but I can definitely see why, although I kind of find it funny that they kept the Captain America shield, United Sergeant shield, but for the same reason, you know, the copyright shit, all that stuff. So the last weapon we will be reviewing is probably my favorite out of the design department's look. The Iceborn was an unobtainable weapon from the 1.2 update. It was entirely removed from the desktop version and the 1.2.4 update, although it still exists as an unobtainable item on the Nintendo 3DS version. So it's like the scythe, it still exists in that version of the game. So you could never actually use it. There was a sprite for it, however, if you tried to use it, like, it wouldn't do anything. So, and it would also turn into an angel statue when placed. So in the trivia, it says the sword's name and appearance is a reference to the Frostborn from the Warcraft franchise. It was likely removed because it would violate the copyright agreement of Blizzard Entertainment. So yeah, that's basically what happened. But I think if they changed the name up or maybe changed the design a little bit, they could have definitely kept it. I think it could have been like maybe like a hard mode upgrade to like the Ice Blade or like the Frost Brand, or like, you know, one of those weapons if they kept it. So it could have definitely been a cool addition to the game, but I can definitely see why they removed it. Anyways, that was about it for this video. I know 10,069 people have already done a video on reviewing Terraria's removed weapons, but I gave my own insight into it, okay? And I have my own style of doing things. So you know what, that's all good and dandy for me, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too. I think this was a lot of fun making, and yeah, if you guys like my content, you want to see more of these edgy videos, subscribe for more shenanigans. Yeah, I'm always here for making more shit. So yeah, keep out for more stuff, and see you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching.